I think we're live right now, and it's Monday morning, December 18th, 2023. This is the last drawing for tattooers this year. So I'm super
God,
excited.
this year has flown by so quick.
Oh, I know. I'm your host, James Wisdom. This morning we've got Amber Morgaine. Hey, Amber, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Even though
Good.
it's Monday morning, I'm good.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I'm just getting warmed up. We're actually gonna do some drawing today. So I'm hoping to get warmed up and all set. We'll
No
start. We'll
worries.
start. We'll start over. Again, I really do like to do this form here. It's you can start off with a circle. My circle is terrible. Well, anyway, yeah. So
My fingers
I
are
like
usually terrible too.
it is. Yeah, you get all the bad ones out in the beginning. Maybe I don't know, but this way there's a little bit more of a target you can start to go for.
I am actually painting today.
Oh, fun! What are you working on?
Um, Christmas presents.
Oh, sure,
I'm painting a bunch of jars and containers, and so I can put my baked goods and stuff in homemade baskets and jars. Hold on, my daughter's calling me.
sure. Well, I
I
hope that.
can't. I'm on the internet right now.
That's
Call her.
awesome.
She knows I have class every Monday morning right
She
after we put
knows.
the kids on the bus.
She wants to be on with you, on with all of
She
you.
used to
So,
do Robbie and Dusty's show once in a while
oh, that's
with me.
cool. Well, hey, Kyle Olson, everybody. How you doing, Kyle? Good to see
Doing
you. Good
good. How about
morning.
you,
Hey,
man?
Kyle.
How goes it?
We're just getting warmed up.
Heck yeah.
Painting
Doing the
in the
warm
dark.
ups.
How's everybody's weekend?
Good. Very busy.
That's good. Nothing wrong with being
There
busy,
is
that's for sure.
Spirit. Good morning, Spirit.
Morning, guys.
Hey,
How y'all doing?
Spirit, long time no see.
Yeah, I missed you guys.
Missed you
Good
too.
morning.
Well, we've got a really great turnout today, and again, so if you watch the show and you enjoy and you want to ever join us, you can always learn more. I'll see. I think I have a QR code I can. Is it this one? Maybe. You can always learn more about reinventing the tattoo by scanning that QR code in the upper left. But anyway, no, I'm really glad that you all can make it. You can always get like email reminders and stuff if you go to my website, tattooingwisdom.com, and then you can sign up, and I will send you a reminder every Monday. Oh my God, I
Something's
think I'm
happening in the
warmed up enough.
background.
I think I've warmed up enough. So yeah, I'm stretching out. I'm stretching out the wrists, everybody. So just giving a little bit of stretch. It's important. Here, I'm gonna get rid of this stream for a moment. Yeah. So yeah, stretching it out. Yeah. Thank you, Kyle. You're joining in. Everybody, you should make this your regular thing, where you get warmed up and then you do a little bit of a stretch. It really can make a big difference. So yeah.
Yeah, I've
Um,
noticed since I started doing it, my hand doesn't hurt as much at the end of a day of drawing.
oh, that's awesome. And then put them together too. Push against. And try to like work out the shoulders a bit, right? So
Mm.
it's just that very little bit. I think it does make quite a difference. So good morning, everybody. I'm so glad you could make it. Last show of 2023. Been a hell of a year.
Yeah.
It has.
Well, I'm also really excited for. I'm just kind of thinking of next year as like as a kind of a new starting, like a new start, right? So I guess in the sense it's not the end of the it's not the end, it's the beginning of the beginning right now, right? So,
yeah.
the end of the beginning of the end. I don't know, but it's
I
one
think
of those.
it was T.S. Eliot who said, ending is just a new beginning. The end is where you start from.
It's very nice.
Yeah. Makes total sense.
Very nice. Well, last year about this time, we were working on self-portrait. It's interesting because every year, if you do a self-portrait every year, then eventually, you're gonna end up like with quite a collection, all kinds of just sort of documentation of of your progress, but also your progress, like your drawing progress, your personal progress. So I think all of the self-portrait once a year is always kind of it's an interesting challenge. It's also, I think, something that can be really good for one. So so we're going to have a couple of weeks to do it. And so if you all decide to do one, I'd love to check it out when we come back in January. And then for everybody out there, if you want to draw a self-portrait, you can, you certainly can, and then you could share it with us. You could email it to me at tattooingwisdom@gmail.com. Or of course, you could let us know in the chat when we get back together that you've done it. You can always post on Instagram and you can hashtag us. Anyway, so I want to, I'm just gonna jump into it, and I'm gonna be drawing, and this would be, I think, a really, we can chat. If anybody else wants to share stuff, it's we've been here before. You know how it goes. So I've got a gray background set up. I'm gonna do some rendering and stuff. And I also have a reference photo. So if I click that wrench icon, canvas, click the reference. There's my reference photo. And, so the reference photo is nice because it can always, it could stay wherever you like it, but you could sort of resize things. It's hard to move it around. So I can't quite get it to 1-to-1 scale, but I will reference to it. And let's see here. So I'm gonna grab my pencil. I'm also gonna make it nice and dark. Maybe not all the way dark. Okay, very good. And where to begin? So I think a really a really challenging way to do this is by using a mirror, right? So if you set up a mirror and you're just looking at a mirror, that can be an extremely challenging way to work on your self-portrait.
That's my favorite way to do a self-portrait.
It's really hard to do it. Like, it's really hard to do it that way. But doing also, like using a photographic reference, nothing wrong with it. There's just different things you get from both approaches. So
yeah,
right. So what I want to do is I want to give myself some parameters first. I'm going to set aside a little bit of space here. Have a top of my head, and then where the chin is going to be. Now, like, there's going to be a proportion. There's going to be a certain proportion that relates to however tall, right, the height to the width. I don't know exactly what that is yet. I will measure, but I want to keep that in mind before I just dive in and start doing like lots of details and stuff. I really want to think about how to structure it. So I'm going to do my best to just give it a quick bit of measurement. What I can see for sure is that there's a line in the center, right? Because I'm kind of like straight on here, face on, so there's a like a symmetry, so I can sort of think about it that way. So there is like an overall width to the height. So if I measure the width, right, whatever that is, I look at the picture and I can hold up my pencil, for instance. You could use a ruler, you can use calipers, whatever. I'm just going to sort of use my pencil to give a rough estimate. It's a little bit more than 2/3, a little bit more than 2/3 width to height, right? So I can take that, I can get a rough sort of block, just a block. That's all I'm interested in at this second. Just a square rectangle, just to get things going. So, all right, now that I have like a, sort of a rough proportion, I can really start to think about like breaking things down. So, there's a lot of different ways to do this. You can sort of observe it. You can stylize. You're gonna stylize. I like to think about like some of the basic shapes, some of the basic alignments and stuff. So whenever you're thinking about a head, particularly drawing a portrait, there's really two main parts that you would want to think about with anybody's head. That's going to be like their cranium and their mask, right? The mask of the face, right? And a lot of times you can think about this as like as like kind of an egg shape. If you think about it like a profile view, an egg shape, and then there's the cranium mass, right? And then the mask of the face, if you like. So when we're change our perspective around it, we're looking at it straight on. We can still think about that stuff. And where is going to be the one of the more useful anatomical markers? It's going to be the brow, right? So you're right across here, your eyebrow. And that makes sense because that's the spot where your eyes are housed. So I think about just again, this is a rough proportion. You can always break the face up into a few components, right? A few parts. But thinking about, I think one of the more important like beginning points would be just looking for the brow, right? Kind of look where the brow is. There's a little bit of anatomy right here called the glabella. It's this little spot right here. And it's that bridge of the nose, and it's kind of like where your orbits or your eye sockets, they begin. All right. So I'm trying to look at
where my wrinkles are.
What's that, Amber?
It's where my wrinkles are.
The stress scars.
Sure.
You can see them right now. They're deep as hell, too.
Yeah, I got some
I
wrinkles.
call them my what the fuck wrinkles.
Brow ridge, where the wrinkles live. So I'm not thinking about details, right? I'm not thinking about like eyelashes and fingernails and stuff. I'm really thinking about just sort of this. There's two big parts, right? The cranium, face mask, right? The mask of the face. Next, the brow ridge. I already have this center line established. I already have like a height and a width overall kind of established. These are gonna help me figure out like how to place the details. I can save the details for later. They're gonna be more effective because they'll be related. Okay. If you go here, I've got like a little sectioned off for where the nose is going to live.
Good day.
I'm just kind of looking at like a shape. I'm not going to detail it out too much, but just sort of give it a shape. Same thing here with where the eye sockets are. Give it a little bit of tone. I think you can do that right away. So in a way, you're not sort of tempted to get in there and start doing too many details. I think that's really it's a tendency I certainly have. So.
So essentially, all you're doing right now is just like building up the wire frame of what you're going to be drawing upon. So like all the landmarks and everything that you have there right now, is any of that going to be part of like the final drawing, or is this just like a blueprint to start off with?
Well, I think it's going to be a part of it, but almost like you're not gonna. It'll be there, but not there. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Right.
This is the facial structure under the skin.
Right. So, for instance, like right here, there's a sort of drawing this triangle shape, right from the corner of the eyes. It touches the nostril, and then it's gonna like be right where the lips are gonna start, the philtrum of the lips. That's a little space between, where that little upturned part right there. So without too much detail, but like this sort of triangle shape, it's not there, but of course it is there, right? When we look, it's like we don't perceive it like explicitly, but it definitely is a part of it. So I see
imaginary line, if that
right, exactly. So I see this triangle shape. And that is gonna, again, you can start to, you can look, you can measure. It's a little bit more than halfway up, generally speaking, is going to be where the crease of the lips is going to be located. Something, again, just don't get too detailed with it yet, but just you can start to think about where is it going to live, where is it going to sit. Right. Now. We don't want to be, it's a little bit wide right here, but I want to start to sort of make the shape a little bit more shapely, if you like. So I am eyeballing it, but I'm looking between this amount of space, rather at the whole thing. I'm trying to imagine like, all right, this amount of space right here. Now look at my reference image. And then again, so what I'm kind of seeing, there's like kind of a relationship like that, right? Between this, where I was talking about the glabella, where I see this sort of imaginary triangle, and then the shape of the jawline right here. The jawline, it's going to be shapes. And when we see it, it's going to have a certain, familiarity to it. But looking for the relationship, I think, can be, just a good way to kind of lessen the mystery, if you like. Okay. Now that, now that I do one to one side, because I'm looking in symmetry, I'm just going to do it to the other side. I can look for horizontal alignments, right? I can see when I look at my reference that there's a certain point where the more of the vertical sort of side of the face starts to become this angle of the jaw versus the very lower, the very lowest part of the chin, for example. And I can also just notice that it's a little higher than the crease of the lips just as a reference. So I'm seeing that. So again, I can take that information over here, and again, I can start to figure out, like, how do I develop symmetry on both of these sides? Right. A really good practice that I can't recommend enough. Every once in a while, you can always flip your design over, sort of make sure that it's, you're not missing something. I can see that mine has a little bit of, it's a little bit like taller on this side, something like that. That might be it might be useful later, but I just want to, give myself a check. So, look at it again, sort of symmetrical looking reference, and then this part, I'll flip it back. This will become more useful as the details really start to emerge, and will give you a way to kind of break the spell of the, of the image. Like if you take a step back from something, you can see it with fresh eyes. If you flip it, look at it in a mirror, anything that you can do, it's giving yourself a new, physical perspective on it. This is important when we do tattoos, right? Like if you're just, you're just, a foot or so away visually from the work that you're working on, before you know it, you're really set on all of the, on all of the decisions you've made. It would be very difficult to have any objectivity about it. So taking a step back, flipping things around, take a photograph, flip that around, you can make it small like a thumbnail. Those are going to be really useful sort of techniques that sort of from this drawing practice, take it right into your tattoo. Okay, so next, there is a certain amount. Again, I don't want to get too detailed yet, but I can kind of roughly estimate where the eyes are, the center of the eyes are going to be, and then again, I can really start to draw like a vertical. I know that where my pupil is located, it's not exactly in alignment with the corner of the mouth. So I know that I can make the corner of the mouth a little bit less, for example. So again, just trying to put those in roughly, and then I might refine that a little bit more later, but yeah. Is there another triangle that we could sort of make there? I'm sure there's like an infinite amount of triangles that you can make. You know what I mean? We started off with this one, but there would be like an infinite amount that you could see. And so I think that's something. Play around with that. Play around with looking at the triangulation. That's going to give you. It's going to make it complicated, but it can also give you a high degree of accuracy, which can definitely be something that you want to go for. So where does the neck live, roughly, right? What is the neck made out of? Right. I think a lot of times we sort of think about like a cylinder or something. If we were to scooch over here and look at our reference again, the neck is going to be sort of constructed from, let's call this the your collarbone. There's a few parts to the collarbone, right? There's the clavicle itself, that's the collarbone. Then there's a middle part. It's the top of your sternum, called the manubrium sternum. And so what connects here is there's a big muscle called the sternocleidomastoid muscle. It's roughly that kind of a shape. Connects here behind your jaw. There's your ear, your jaw. Sorry for so rough. And then mastoid to your your mastoid process. It's part of your skull. Anyway, there's this, and then there's the trapezius. And you've got your throat, right? So, spinal column right there. So this is like sort of the neck from the side. When we're thinking about it, sort of straight on. Back up a little bit. there's going to be a proportional relationship to the sternal notch, right? And so that is going to be, it's roughly this amount. I'm sort of, it's, as I look at it, it's between the nose to the chin as a, in this particular instance, it's pretty close. So there's the sternal notch. And then again, so you can kind of see just a little bit of evidence from the shadow, but that's the sternocleidomastoid muscles make up the neck, and then there's going to be trapezius under there. And then I've got my sweatshirt on, so shirt collar, going to cover up a lot of that stuff. But when you're constructing it, you're kind of, you think, you learn a little bit of anatomy, you think about it a little bit, and then you think about it a little bit, and then you end up, being able to sort of, work your way through it. So just refining a few more of the shapes and stuff. Again, it's a little bit wide over here, so I don't want to get into details and stuff yet. I'm still working out this sort of overall shape. Still working out this overall shape. All right, and my hair in this instance, again, I'll just gesture this in. I don't know what it's going to take to render this yet, so I'll just. It is always, I think, it's interesting staring at yourself in the mirror or staring at your own photograph for a long time. It can be a bit uncomfortable. I won't lie to you.
Yes.
I'm looking right here, and there's a relationship here to the. There's a relationship here to this part of the nose, the earlobe. And then again, I can't really see it on that side. I'll indicate it for myself, so I have it. Here, let's look again. I'm gonna see it's a little. It's lower than the brow. I don't know exactly where, but I'll put that in. So top of the ear. How's it looking? Yeah, something like that. Okay. As I'm, starting to, get the shape a little bit more confidently placed down, I'm starting to think about that there is, a bit of anatomy here. There's the frontal bone, frontal bone. There's, the forehead. It doesn't protrude out, but there's certainly, we can start to see this side of the head too, kind of, behind it. So it's a little bit narrower than the temporal bone, the side of the head. So indicated a little bit. The shadows are subtle on the lighter side. They're more dramatic over here on this shadowy side. So again, thinking about the structure, that's going to help when I start to render it. There we go. Zygomatic arch. That's your cheekbone. So I can look and see. I can kind of eyeball it. Again, there's a nice sort of repetition of angles, right? So if I'm looking at, I drew this glabella here in the middle as kind of like, this angle. But if I look at the shadow shape, I can see that there's a slightly steeper angle. And I want to repeat that over here on zygomatic, the cheekbone. I can kind of look at the way that it's related to where the nose is located. So it seems like it's pretty well in line. And then I want to repeat that here on the other side. Now, what can I do to I think, sort of help myself out? I want to clear the visual field a little bit. So I'm actually going to, I'm just going to turn down my eraser. Like when you draw with paper and pencil, you can use a kneaded eraser, and that can be a really effective tool. So let's see, I'm just going to do a little test here. Maybe a little stronger. Just sort of knock it back just a little bit. And then always make it a little stronger. Take a little bit more of this information out. Or smudge, right? You can, like, like, there's nothing wrong with a little smudge every once in a while. Smudge it together. Cool.
Used to have a
All
pug
right.
named Smudge.
Yeah, I love the smudge tool. I think it really makes your Procreate drawings, like, it can really make them, start to approach, drawing like a drawing with paper or something like that. So, okay, I like a lot of what I'm seeing as far as like the shapes and stuff. I'm just going to indicate a few more of the shadows for myself. Just a couple of more shadow areas. Again, I'm not worried about eyeballs and stuff yet. I'll get there. I can make that. I love drawing eyeballs. I think it's a lot of fun as a, to do those details. But for now, I'm just going to leave it where it is. I can see there's a relationship right. If you can follow me, like right here, there's like a plane of the head, right? And I can see that there's a shadow. The cheek cuts into it a little bit, but all the way along the the side here is a little bit halftone, but there's shadow and halftone all along that area. And then again, it's sort of you can see it down here by the neck. Over here on the on the light side over here, you can't see too much of the rendering. It's very subtle. So I'm going to save that stuff for later, for the end, really. So let's just grab a different brush. Maybe that one. I don't know. Just going to block it in. So lower the opacity, make it a little bigger, and start some. I'm drawing all on the same layer. I'm just all on the same layer because I think that's like that's how you would be drawing, if you were drawing this. So Spirit had to run. He says, "Merry Christmas, Happy New Year," and he is going to draw a portrait. Thank you, Spirit. I cannot wait to see it. Yeah, and I hope you guys all like to take on the challenge too. Love to see it too.
Absolutely.
We did it last year. I think it was a lot of fun.
It was. And I'm not going to lie, I'm probably going to do it the same way I did it last year.
That's
2
cool.
days before it was due. Because that's just who I am as a person. And for some reason, if I'm not under pressure, I can't get shit done.
Yeah, I understand that for sure.
Every term paper I have ever written has been researched and written within the last 48 hours before it was due.
Hey, if it works, it works,
It does work, but it's frustrating as hell. I gotta give myself anxiety to get shit done.
Yeah, that is
Good old ADHD.
You ain't even kidding.
Sounds familiar to me.
Right.
All right.
I'm actually seeing a new therapist that specializes in adult ADHD.
Nice.
And I'm learning some new tricks and stuff like that to help manage.
Dope.
Excellent.
That's exciting.
Yes, I can't wait.
Awesome. Well, so the way that I was taught to do this, and it makes a lot of sense. Again, the block in. You really kind of block in all of the these bigger shapes. You then block in the rendering. You start to you just put it down if you like, and it doesn't have to be super delineated yet, or like you don't have to get explicit. It's just sort of the basic. This is where it's going to be dark, roughly. Unify and bring it together a little bit more. Okay. Take some of those harder edges out. Very good. Then maybe I can get rid of some of this middle stuff. I know it's there. It helped me sort of develop things a bit. So yeah, I think that's a good way to go. Okay. Next step after you get to here would be you can start to darken some of those shadows. What's a good way to think about it? So digitally, you can always play with the levels of your image. You can like make it darker, digitally. Um, Increase the contrast digitally. There's all kinds of ways you can do it. If you're working from life, right? You're working from the mirror. You're working from somebody sitting there in front of you, or even, and I think this is important too. If you're looking at a reference while you're doing a tattoo, for instance, and and maybe you might need to stop and do sort of a basic check. But something that I find really helpful is squinting. So what I mean by squinting, it's not about what I don't think is as effective in this case is blurring your eyes necessarily. Instead, you're lowering the amount of light information that you're seeing by squinting, and it helps you see the tonal value a little bit more clearly. So when I squint at my reference image, again, I see those shadowy shapes, but I can also start to pick out like where it's going to be a little bit darker. So again, so I'll squint a little bit, and I will continue to refine this shadowy shape. Want it not too dark. I don't want to mess around with it too much. So, but I'm looking at this. There's a shadow cast from the nose onto the cheek. Okay. Step back. All right, cool. So I can see, again, this would be another, you would repeat the drawing steps now, right? That would be the kind of the repetition here, is like you would repeat the drawing steps. So it looks like it's very dark in this space behind. Increase. So the hair, for the most, there's some highlights in the hair, but for the most part, the hair is very dark. It doesn't really. There's not really a competition between the shadows and in most of the face, and then the hair, for instance, in this particular instance, right? So I can do myself a favor and just sort of get that all blocked in right away. So do the, do this hair situation. There's a little lost edge right there, right where I'm working, where the hair and my forehead, right here in the darkest part. Okay, but and also I'm not at full black yet, because I can actually go all the way to dark. I'll reserve this to the end, but I can, but I gave myself some room. I really wasn't all the way at the darkest dark. And then also full opacity. This is like using your, when you're using your pencils, you may have like a, various hardness or softness of pencil, and also like the force with, the force of you applying it. So I'm gonna just say that right here again, there's a lost edge. I drew in the difference, and it might very well be like it's just slightly darker because of I know the sweatshirt that I'm wearing in this picture is black, and it's darker than my hair. And so they're at about the same place right here. So I might say that I might sort of say that the sweatshirt here is just a little bit darker, for instance. That's like a darkest dark. And then here it's like it's dark, but it's slightly lighter. But again, I don't want to get too finicky with it. I'm just sort of placing a darkest dark area. And let's see. So again, trying to do myself some favors here by just blocking in some of the really dark stuff here in this instance. On this side too, there's a lot of highlights on the on the lighter side of the hair, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm just going to put in a little bit of some of this value. And then again, the sweatshirt is much darker than a lot of things, but I don't want to over render it, so I'll just block it in. But I'm not going to go full black on this lighter side. It's still the same material as over there. Okay, this deep shadow area here. It's still the same material, but it's gonna get a little bit of light. So I'll you can always sort of again use that kneaded eraser technique and sort of lift it off. But just give it a pass. I had a teacher that called doing this sort of thing like glazing. Like even though it's like maybe charcoal, or in this case we're working digitally, but giving it glazing over the whole surface.
It's a good way to understand the technique if you're an oil painter or watercolor painter.
Yes, I agree.
Because you're very much blending and creating glazes over glazes when you do either of those things.
So not going to over render, but just a little tiny bit of the shape, and just to give myself a head start. But now what I have at least is some clear tonality, and there's really just three tones. I mean, I know I was messing around a little bit, but like it's really just the three tones, right? There's this like this darkest dark, right? Kind of established that where that darkest dark area is going to be. There's this light area here. It's that stuff is, you can see it's all light. I haven't touched it. I haven't put any rendering in it at all. It's just light. And then there's also there's this, right now it's a middle tone, right? It's that stuff. So I like it. I like where that's at. I like the fact that it's it's sort of clear. I can see, you know, roughly there's a rough sort of relationship to the reference. So, all right, lower down the opacity a little bit. Now I'm going to refine some of the shadow shapes inside here just a little bit. And like I was saying, this will be a continuation of the drawing. So you would basically go through all the measurement and stuff. Again, thinking about anatomy is helpful. Looks like, you know, this with the bridge of the nose, not so different than the, you know, the side plane of the face here. You know, like I was talking about this sort of side of the head, for instance. Too dark, but try to be judicious with this application. All right. I think what I would say too here in the neck, even though there's a lot of light on it, I do want to push it back, you know, so I know right away that I want to, I just want to put a little value on it. Just one little step back from the, you know what I mean? From the forehead, for instance. I know that the light is closer, you know.
Yeah, so you can understand they're on different planes.
Right. The photographic, the photograph is the subtleties they're so like minute, and then additionally, you could say that like the photograph can flatten things out. That's what that would mean. It would mean like that in this instance that the neck is at the same plane or the same level as the forehead where it's closer to the light, and so. I know that I want to like push that back a little bit. I'll just put a little value on it. As I look at the reference, looks like along the jawline on the light side here, it's a little bit darker. And we can address that, sort of finesse that a little bit later. But, for now, just thinking ahead. Oh yeah, I don't want there to be any confusion at the neck and where the light is at. I want to index the light is up there at the very top part. Right. So
is there like artistic choices, I don't know how to put it, that you want to consider when doing like self-portraits or drawing off of images, to help control the hierarchy of the self-portrait? You know what I mean?
I definitely think so. It's you do get to decide like what you emphasize. What you bring a lot of focus and clarity to. Those are going to be probably the ways that you stylize it. And then of course we can't help but to sort of focus on the things we're interested in.
Yeah.
So if you're really interested in the eyes and stuff, you're going to likely like emphasize those. So for instance, like if I put a lot of attention and detail into a little section of hair or something like that, but I don't get in and do any details on the eyes, for instance, depending on what that would make the portrait about hair.
Yeah.
And I know that's probably a strange example, but that's, I hope that that's, kind of getting at what you're asking.
Well, yeah. Like,
what do you think about it? I'd love to hear your opinion too.
Oh yeah, like what you're saying, because I remember like way back when I was drawing and I would try to start building stuff up, but then I would get distracted and just start drawing on like say like the hair and put a bunch of time and detail into the hair, and then when I would get bored with that, I'd move on to something else, and then just like it would be off, it wouldn't look not right, because then I think in the hierarchy of everything, that's just trying to add too many focal points. And then the reason I was asking for the hierarchy thing, because like in your reference image, like the whole jacket just looks solid black on my screen, and the creative process that the route that you've chosen is like on the one side you made it lighter, the side that the light's coming in, and I'm just wondering if that was just like to help control the hierarchy of it to where like your darkest dark is going to be over there, and that's like the most solid black that you want. You don't want to take away from that, type of thing. And it's just, yeah, I guess that was just all I was coming at from.
No, I think that. Thank you for bringing that up because that is really. Um, I think it's really tricky to figure out. Like, especially so if you're going like point for point,
Uh-huh.
right? Somebody's wearing somebody's wearing like a a black shirt, for instance. You want to draw that. If you just draw it all flat black as you can make it, right? You make it as dark as you can. Um, that looks flat. It doesn't
Yeah.
have any dimension to it, and it may be very dark, but even still, there's going to be this sort of subtle, like difference.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be an area that's slightly darker. There's going to be an area that's getting a little bit of light. In the picture,
Mm-hmm.
it's very subtle.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking about it in terms of like I can see areas that are lighter, so I know where the light is, and then I know where it's not. And so if I really look at the reference, I can see that there's that little spot right there is darker
Mm-hmm.
than this other half. I know it practically, and then also I can if I'm looking for it, I can see it at an overall point. But I think that the um, what can be difficult is getting lost in the you know in the sauce, if you like. Same thing with these like reflected lights. So
Mm-hmm.
when we think about like if we have a you know we have a sphere, right, and then the sphere has a a coarse shadow, right, and then there's a highlight highlight, right.
Mm-hmm.
We can kind of see that over here on this other side, it's there's a little bit of light that might be reflecting off of something, but if I were to take this same light and put it over there, um, or even make it brighter or something like that, is something strange that happens, right? There's something strange that's happening to this form. So um, yeah, it's like if everything is all dark, there's no contrast, and then there's a flattening out. But the same thing with like you were talking about, the hierarchy becomes important because you know, like you might be able to have a situation, where this happens, if it's like a rim light or something. But unless that's really intentional, then that could be
Mm-hmm.
really not what you're going for. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that could be frustrating. So,
Mm-hmm.
right. So, as I'm, again, I'm sort of thinking about just, some of the smaller, getting into some of these smaller shadow shapes. I don't want to go too crazy with it. Probably a good time to start thinking about like just a couple more details, eyes and the lips, right? So I'll go back to the finer pencil, and then again, I'm going to think about like where are the eyes located. There is, overall height, right? About halfway, roughly. That's generally speaking, that's kind of where we end up seeing the eye level, right? So just thinking about it, I'm just gonna block in just a horizontal line to kind of get myself started.
An allergic reaction to shellfish,
Right. It is looking like some kind of pink eye situation. All right, so I want to draw just the shape of the eyelash and the whole iris itself, and I'm just going to make them as one shape for now. And again, I'm going to look, and it looks like just sort of where our nostril edge. That's probably it has to be where the inside corner of your eye that's located, right? And I don't want to get too detailed. And observe this really carefully and make it, like do a lot of meticulous measurements. But let's see. Closer. But what I don't want to do is like get really like sort of hung up on one right away. You know what I mean? And like detail it out. Instead, what I'll do is I'll I'll try to get them related and placed, and see if I can see if I'm pleased with that. And again, so more measurement, right? Measure, and sort of figure out like where's going to be the right spot for these. Let's flip it and see. Well,
it's so crazy. It's like a completely different portrait.
Right.
Yeah.
It's totally it really like it's totally weird. I'll try my best to continue to refine it a little bit. Maybe I'll smudge these down so it's not so sharp, because that's a part of it too. You know what I mean? It's like you can you sort of sketch it in and it's like it gets real sharp and harsh and you're like that's not working. But
I love paper stumps.
yeah, totally. Paper stumps is a good way to go. And so yeah, something like that. It's like that's getting a little closer. Maybe I'll take my eraser and pull some of this shadow out. Lighten the eyebrow even slightly.
So do you think that like with building up this the entire portrait, like building it up and stuff like that, do you think it's important to kind of stay away from hard lines and kind of keep everything really soft edge, and then wait for like the hard lines once you get down to like the end of it?
I definitely think you're going to need some edges, right? You're going to need some sharp edges for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, I think if you are building it up this way, right, then yeah, you're definitely going to want to build towards it. If you have a photograph that you are, so I'm using a photographic reference here, but if you have a photograph you are, directly, you want to make a photo realistic, let's say, right? You might trace it out precisely and then really look for the hard edges, right? You can establish those right away because you're just, you're using exactly that, that reference. And then, yeah, then you can, then as far as the rendering goes, I would imagine you would want to make sure that you're pushing and pulling, kind of like what we're doing right here. Right? I'm, trying to push it and pull it, and hopefully end up with something that's starting to resemble. But what do you think? Because like, so you're you do a lot of photorealistic black and gray, and it's very nicely done. How do you handle it when you're like replicating a photograph?
I guess I try to keep everything as loose as I can. And it definitely makes sense to like some of your like landmarks, like say your eyes, your nose, and stuff like that. Definitely keep them those certain areas like hard lined, and then just like everything's pretty soft. And then the subtleties are huge. They're so important. Like it's kind of crazy how something so small and simple and subtle like can make such a huge difference in the overall portrait. Um, so, but yeah, it's basically like, portrait wise, it's basically the exact same way that you're doing it, drawing it up. Tattoo wise, it's it's just pendulum all day long. But yeah, I don't know. Does that answer the question? I don't know.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah. So, and thank you for the compliment, man. I appreciate that.
Oh, of course. Of course. Well, I think it's sort of like there's probably some simplification that, you would want to do. If you're doing it as a painting, you're doing it as a tattoo, whatever the case may be. But yeah, it's like, understanding what it is you're rendering, you know what I mean, the shape of it and stuff. I think that could really go a long way into helping you achieve the thing that you want. So um, doing these studies, anatomical studies, or your own, portrait or something like that, I think that can, I think it helps a lot. I really do. So
Yeah, 100%. Like taking like a really close look at yourself in the mirror, and then just looking at all like the peaks and valleys and plains and all the different, really important landmarks can definitely help.
Last year, I realized exactly how asymmetrical my face was.
Everybody's is.
Oh, mine looks like two separate people. If you cover up one half of my face and then the other, it looks like I'm two separate people. Which proves a couple theories I've had about my brain over the years.
Yeah.
well, I feel like that's a little better. Yeah, that's a little bit better, right? Rather than the harsh, sort of eyeballs that I had going on. So I might get in there and so again make it this way. Refine it just a little bit more. Watch the shape of the lash, and then maybe there's the pupil, something like that. I don't want to get like, we think about the whites of the eyes. I don't want to get too light right away because, again, they're shaded, right? There's a lot of, shade that's happening there. So, all right. You can kind of see already that it's too light right here. And I'm going to make sure to go darker. Make sure to push it a little darker in the hair so it separates from this face, but also it's just a little bit too light. And so what's happening here, right? So I have a side plane of the face, and then again, there's a plane shift to the angle of the jaw to the bottom of the chin. So push this around a little bit, smudge it. And that's starting to become a little bit more refined, I think. So you can do a quick back step. I don't think there's no cheating. Yeah. Push that a little bit more. Push the hair a little bit more. Pull out a little bit. Keep things going. Same thing here. A little wide still. So narrow that slightly. Yeah. A little bit of a glaze over that, right? We're talking about that glazing over it. Okay. Now, I'm going to work on this, the mouth area a little bit, and then, we'll probably call it a day for this one. So, again, so we found this, there's this, this philtrum right here, and we have is like, we think about, I'm going to go over here and talk about lip anatomy. So, we have we have with lips, we have 2 nodes down here for the lower lip, right? And then there's 1 node up here on the top that makes up the upper. It looks like bird wings almost. Looks like that's the way. Should be more symmetrical probably than that, but like that's generally speaking, right? Like there's a sort of slight swoop, just swoops this way, right? Like that, and then read that, and then yes, this center part, it should fit between 2 subtle sort of nodes here, and then it's going to be darkest here at the corners, right? That's pretty commonly known, but there's something to keep in mind, right? So when you think about it, that's very general, but so when you're looking, that might be something that you see. Oftentimes, if the light is coming from above, if we think about from the profile view, the upper lip is sort of a downward facing plane, right? And then the lower lip has, a lot of it is sort of, facing upwards. If the light's coming from above, then we're going to see that the upper lip has a lot more shading, a lot more value on it. The lower lip underneath it will be more in shadow, right? So that's just sort of the way to kind of think about, like, what is going on with the lips. So again, I will squint and sort of look, and it looks like it's going to be a little bit harsh and dark. It's like the eyeballs, but I should be able to adjust it. Yeah, that's probably good. And I'll knock that back just a little tiny bit. Right. I think, it's like, I'll do a little bit of this. I may like go back and sort of erase it, but like when you feel confident about like where all the shapes and stuff are, then yeah, get in there and start trying to achieve a bit more of a likeness, I suppose. What's this? Yeah, pencil. Nostrils. I'm just observing them. How do they work? Where there's a wing of a nostril, it kind of flares over, attaches here to the center, and you get a lot of like really interesting shadows and stuff. Yeah, something like that is going to be probably good for now. And then you can always put a few highlights in there. Yeah, why not? I'll just go with very strong light, and I'll look and try to put it not all over the place, but just in a few spots. Like that here on the cheekbone, zygomatic. Here on the nose a little bit. Small little area here. Right. Oh, yeah, and it looks like there's a really strong one right there, and then maybe another one over there. A little creepy. I want a little creepy, but still looks a little. I'm seeing it. It's like here, flip it around a little bit. There'll be some. There's always going to be a few issues with it. At a certain point, you have to go for it. I think that's the thing to remember. You got to go for it. It's a little wide here still, so I'm just gonna like make it a little narrower, and I think that'll probably do it for this demo. Again, I hope hope you all give it a shot. Hope you all out there give it a shot, and maybe while you're working on it, it's like there's new insights that you get. I think that's, I think that for me that's the fun of it, is learning something that you didn't really know before. It's not the worst. Just a little, see, a little darker. Same like this, right? Like there's a little bit of value here by the top of the forehead. There's a little bit here, kind of where the nose is sort of like casting a shadow here. This part's called the nasolabial furrow. It's that part here between your nose and your mouth. So that furrow, if you like. So there's a detail of like my nose ring. Again, that'd just be like you finesse it. You do that gesture. It really wouldn't be too big of a deal. A little bit darker here, right? You see that? Maybe that's too dark. But mush that around a little bit. Maybe erase just a smidge. Okay. All right, so there's my quick little self-portrait, and better than some, worse than other. I'm looking at it from looking at
Doing
it
great,
from
James.
Very nice.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it needs some work for sure, but
Part of the process, man.
it is a process. Yeah, it is really. It's a process, and
Build up.
Little strange here and there, but yeah, no, I think it'll. It is fun to do these, you know what I mean? So I really do want to encourage you all to, to give it a shot and have fun with it, because drawing is fun. It's hard too. I mean, it's very difficult, and it's one of those things that can give you incredible, sense of accomplishment, right? And then also at the same time, it can really humble you in many ways. So, but yeah, play around with it and have a good time. Take a step back. Take a step back from mine, and I can see there's all kinds of things I want to keep working on. But there are some other areas that that I'm really, really pleased with. So, all right, let's get rid of that. Okay, thanks everybody. Why don't we sign off for our last time for the year? And if you get your portrait done, make sure to join us in January, and we'll check it out and give each other some feedback. So, Amber, give us your sign off.
As always, you can find me everywhere on the internet under Amber Morgan. Don't go to my MySpace page. I don't even think it works, but it comes up if you Google me, which is weird. Still weird that if you Google Amber Morgan, I'm what you get.
That's cool.
That's crazy to me.
Thank you so much, Amber. It's been it's been another year. It's been a pleasure having you on Drawing for Tattooers. And,
thank you so much for hosting every week. I get so much out of this show. Whether we just discuss ideas and art and philosophy, or we're drawing, or we're looking at the fundamentals, every single show I come away with something new.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Kyle, give us your sign off, my friend.
All right. My name is Kyle Olson. I tattoo out of Trinity Art Collective in Tucson, Arizona. If you need to get a hold of me, you can DM me on Instagram at Olson_tattoos. Yeah, or you can reach out at trinityartcollective.com. Either way will work. And thanks for hosting, James. Always. Thank you. It's always fun.
Thank you so much. Yeah, again, I'm so, it was so cool to meet you this year in person, Kyle.
Yeah.
Amber, I hope that we get to meet in person in 24.
Oh, it'll happen. Don't worry.
Yeah,
It'll happen.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'm planning it. It's in the works.
Isn't it funny? It's just so weird. Like you meet people on the internet and then like,
Mhm.
they're real, right? Yeah, real, they end up being real people. So that means
I've made some amazing friends over the internet.
yeah. Well, to all of you out there, I really have appreciated you tuning in and joining us here on the show because really it's like there's no gurus here. We're all just drawing together, and it's a community.
Mhm.
And so again, I'm just so grateful for this opportunity. Thanks, Gabe. Thanks, Guy. This is this is awesome. Love doing it, and thank you for all you guys do. And anyway, thank you. I'm James Wisdom. This is Drawing for Tattooers. You can find me at tattooingwisdom.com and on the internet, Tattooing Wisdom. Happy drawing, everybody, and we'll see you next stream in 2024.
Happy holidays.
All right.